I'm Jacob. Uh, I'm not a very serious guy. I think it keeps my mental health in check also, so don't mind me. This is actually what I dress like, which is t-shirt and shorts, and that is taken at the edge of my forest, edge of my property, which is at the edge of a forest. Some of y'all have been here, been there, and that's actually what my life looks like. I'm just dressed like this because I came for client meetings in Delhi, which includes some people who only take you serious if you wear a suit. So that's why I'm dressed like this. But this is a lifestyle I embraced about 7 years ago. And my life partner, and I went there and chose it. And we said, this is a kind of lifestyle we want to live. And it's a very small lifestyle. And it's accessible only by walking for the 45 minutes because the closest road is 1 hour away. There are very few humans there, so that's great. And there's lots of animals there, which is great. Sometimes the animals are in your house, like snakes, which come to the house. So I had to learn how to relocate snakes without killing them and things like that. Bison, how do you deal with bison and wild boar and deer? This is part of our daily life. And so we thought we were going to settle there. But this living by this forest actually helped me channel my life towards regenerative culture, which is what you will see here in the frameworks here is one step ahead of sustainability, where sustainability is about low impact or zero impact, but regenerative is being about positive impact. And that's really what this is about. It's about how do we be a positive impact, because we need to make up for the mistakes we have made in our past, for what other people are making right now before they come onto regenerative culture. And also sometimes we have to do like slightly carbon heavy things like take a flight, and you'll see those numbers on this presentation as well. This is what happened. So the story that kicked me off was walking along the road by the forest. I found a huge garbage dump, which all the villagers, local residents, and resorts were dumping. And some of it were chips packet, very popular on holiday. Chips packet, and it's just lined with salt. And I saw a bison, which is the largest wild bovine in the world, eating one of those plastic bags. And I waited for the bison to leave, and I started cleaning it up. I started picking up garbage, and I did that for 2 years by myself and with some friends, and it was a very small operation. And we tried to include more people, and we did a lot of marketing tactics, because I'm a trained communicator, did the entire career of journalist to editor in the first decade of my career. So we used these communication tactics to bring some people in. The biggest cleanup we had was 5 people for those first 2 years. And we started experimenting with different ideas. And one of them worked. And we ended up with 35 people. And then we started reproducing that. And eventually we ended up with 1,200 people right here in Delhi in a cleanup. And now I am consulted by politicians and boardrooms and all of that, because I apply frameworks to do these things. And so I'm going to show you some of those right now. So this is the house. It's 3 rooms, 10 foot by 10 foot, mud house, stone house. It's not a big house, it's a small house. And it's a small lifestyle that we live, my wife and I. And this is it. And that's my stick with which I used to clean up the garbage. So I'd use it to pull it out. Sometimes you have to pull it out. Because sometimes we don't know. There might be snakes in the garbage also, because they're also looking. So we have to like first move that and then segregate it and all of that. And this is how we operate. This is me posing with the first cleanup garbage. We took this picture as a joke. And this ended up getting published in so many newspapers in big print. My wife is very sad that I was wearing those shorts. It just published in the newspapers. And yeah, but that was the size of that was the volume of the garbage that we did at the first cleanup that I ran. outside my house. Uh, this was 6 years ago. And so I decided at some point that I can't keep this in the forest because we thought we were away from all human damage, but we were not. We chose a house which was inaccessible by road, but it was not inaccessible by plastic. And we decided to come down, move into Bangalore, and start bringing friends in on these models. And here you can see meetings with some friends. A lot of them are unphotographed meetings. And these are a few of them. And some cleanups were as small as that, where there were just 3 of us cleaning up around a lake. And some of them were ended up being like slightly larger, and we got bigger, and we got invited. And there were people who were mayors and governors and people of that scale also coming because they saw it as an opportunity to build their vote banks. And so, yeah, and we ended up with corporates and things like that. This is the cleanup in Delhi, actually, which happened about 2 years ago. And there were like lots of young people who were cleaning up their own neighborhoods. And this is about like, how do we localize net zero? And therefore, there's a lot of things that we have done about giving this strength and information and knowledge to local people that if you're actually cleaning up neighborhoods, it's actually quite easy if you're very strategic about it. For instance, one of the frameworks that we employed was stakeholder mapping, where we looked at which were the local businesses that would benefit the most. So we identified restaurants, and we have a list of restaurants in all these 10 cities who are willing to sponsor it. We have a camping startup, which sponsored all the transportation I'm not allowed to use brand names, so pardon me, I can't actually give them credit. But there was a camping startup which sponsored all the transport of all the waste. There was my marketing agency which was sponsoring all communication sponsorships and things like that. So, and therefore the combination of peak skill sets, there's base skill sets, which is picking up garbage, and then there's peak skill sets, which is marketing and strategizing and things like that. And it's a combination of these two that can actually make a regenerative future possible. Ended up in a whole lot of publications. I think she already said, like, one of the most influential in the country and blah, blah, blah. Got published about in Switzerland, in Sweden, in China, all of that. We'll save that for another time. So there were some challenges things I got wrong also. So not everyone has the time for this kind of work. Not everyone has the knowledge for the damage that they're doing. Where do I even start? I didn't even know. And that's part of the reason I'm sure all my fellow entrepreneurs here and speakers here have experiences. Where do you even start for this kind of work? I didn't know how to go forward. I realized not everyone cares also, and that's a big part of the problem. Sometimes it's too expensive a problem for one person to solve, and so we need to come together, for sure. And I'm here to share the knowledge of these things I've gained across journalism school, across a business school, and a whole bunch of other courses done. I experimented with the favors, paying for services, poster campaign streets, many more mistakes and learnings. We'll just save this for later. But I didn't fail the test. This is Benjamin Franklin's course. I just did 100 things that, how to do it wrong. That's it. I just know how to do it wrong. And therefore, that process of elimination helped me identify what to do right. I'm very quickly in failing fast. To quote Mark Zuckerberg, fail fast, get the product out, and we are very quickly about a very rapid action that we do with these things. So, what is regenerative sustainability? Let's imagine the Earth is a ship, and we're sinking this ship, okay? There's a small hole at the bottom of the ship which is slowly feeding the water, which is the case right now. We're burning much more carbon than we're supposed to be. We're consuming a lot more water than we're supposed to be. We're wiping out species a lot more than we're supposed to be. We're not supposed to be wiping out any species. And emptying 2 buckets from that ship is, suppose there was water coming in such a way that it's only 2 buckets at a time. And if you're throwing out 2 buckets at a time, we still have water in that ship and it's still going to sink. That is net zero. That is what sustainability is about. It's not enough. What we need to be doing is, this is sustainability. What we need to be doing is, all of us need to be coming together and throwing water out of this ship very quickly to get the ship floating again. Because we have, what, 7 years away now. That's a very small time window if we have to hit like, whatever, 1.5 degrees or whatever that number is going to be. So what is regenerative sustainability? For a flight, for instance, okay, and there are very varying numbers according to different formulas here. Per seat, and this is done, how many trees are needed, okay? So my calculation of my round trip from Bangalore to Delhi is 0.7 tons of carbon was eliminated for one seat on a flight, okay? And there are other numbers which will say New York to Bangalore is 22 trees, or high sequestering trees, or 120 low sequestering trees. This is, what they're saying is 2 trees. I need to plant 2 trees to offset my carbon footprint here, okay? And that is where sustainability happens. But if I do 3 trees, that is being positive impact because you're making up for your past. So I'm requesting all of you to plant trees, do the calculation, and plant trees every time you take a flight. It's really important. And make sure they survive, okay? So that's a non-negotiable, people. I'm telling you, it has to be done. All right, so this regenerative sustainability, I've said this already, is about making up for our own unsustainable past, the sustainable past of people who are not yet on board, and our current practices, like taking a flight, for instance. Very important, and this is a thing we all need to do for us to be able to distribute change in a vast way. So there are external factors of observations, external factors that affect us, international policy, economy, public interest, blah, blah, blah. And with internal factors, we only focus on ability. Okay, so let's look at the abilities at different frameworks to distill, and this is the distillation of frameworks because I'm a former business journalist and business school graduate as well. So, for example, the traits of the ideal teammate, self-improvement and ability are things that can be modified. Ability includes, like, if you're whatever one of these professions. Let's talk about strategy, okay? Because this is like the foundation of all action. Strategy is where this is a framework that I developed as well, and it's like divides apathetic, eco-aspirants, and actives. And you can see in the bright green is living regeneratively, which is the topic of this that I'm addressing here. How do you live regeneratively? The marketing funnel. How do you apply the marketing funnel to regenerative culture? So let's say, for example, you want to build awareness for 1 million people, right? That's 100% of your target group. And you say, okay, so this is my social media post has to be viewed by 1 million people, out of which 100,000 people will evaluate and they'll come to my blog and say there's a link in bio, click on the link in bio. So it's like 10% is coming down here. The goal is this person, like 1%, which will be maybe 10,000, will attend the event or donate or fund or something like that, right? Now the marketing funnel, now I'm combining 2 frameworks by saying the marketing funnel and the pyramid of engagement, which is the little small one there, the cute little one there, you can see that one? It's very important, okay? So how do you move that, the 10,000 from there to there? So now let's focus on this. This is the goal of a marketing funnel. This comes to 10,000. And now from there, you can get, of those people who sign up, 1,000 people to volunteer for the event, and 100 people are willing to face decision makers and face press. They're able to also face their community. It's a very small percentage. Out of 1 million people, there are 1,000 people who are possible to do this. This is just a random number. I'm not saying this is a factual number, but I'm saying like it's a really tiny population where it's 0.01%. But how do you identify it? This is the roadmap of how to do it. And we can talk about content later. Another system that we use is stakeholder mapping, which is, for example, most interested, least interested, most skilled in their work, least skilled in their work. And these are like quadrants. This is the quadrant strategy, and these are frameworks that everyone knows and familiar with. So, assuming you're running an event which needs a mix of skill sets. For example, the chef, the think tank, event planner, coder, politician, etc. So there are 2 of each kind here. They all cost a certain number. Now, if you had 1,000 rupees as a budget, how would you distribute that budget? Right? That's how you'd use a stakeholder mapping. And we provide this as a service right now. So please, I'm sharing it with all of you because it needs to be shared. Technology and trend mapping. This is the early adopters, innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority. And this is based on like distribution of technology. across the world. And you can see, like, again, if we did that same exercise where we divide it and we know that, influencer is an innovator and that's their cause, coder Y is an innovator. So how do we like distribute this based on, again, our goals? This is another, for example, a trend. It's a framework of a trend that we can use. The inverted pyramid, very popular. This is a storytelling structure which journalists use, where on top is the most newsworthy info. It answers the 4 Ws and 1 H, and the 5 Ws and 1 H, followed by important details, background information, 3-part story structure. I'm a trained script writer for films as well. And so how do you introduce the story, the introduction? I'm going to run you all through an exercise. Titanic. Does anyone know the 3-part story structure? Familiar to anyone? So all films in Hollywood are structured this way, where there's an introduction, conflict, and resolution. And here, the Titanic has actually 2 distinct ones. One is about the woman itself, and the other is about the ship. Okay, and you can see this, it goes through a story structure. Same with Dil Chahta Hai. Like it has a 3-part story structure as well. And with series, there are micro story structures within each of them, as you can see there. Each of the episodes have their own story structure, and the large arc has its own story structure, and I've highlighted that. So the recap of the idea is, to generate large-scale regenerative sustainability, we need to be looking at other industries. And as a college here, which probably has management students, tech students, science students, it's the intersection of these skill sets that can make this possible. And everybody can use it, and every industry has these frameworks. And we need to use this. That's how we have done it. We have generated a team which also employs this. All of the team members, in their spare time, in their regenerative time, which is 2 hours per week, we cap it at 2 hours, is they give themselves to the environment for no cost. Okay, and everyone on our team actually has volunteered heavily in the environment, and that's the basis of what they do. And as a volunteer in my own skill set, I've also supported a lot of cleanups, youth movements. We have one of the leaders here of those youth movements. Yeah, and that's what we need to do. We need to combine this kind of strategy. We need to borrow from the business world to make up for the damage that they themselves did. There's no other way to do this. I think so, at least. So, thank you.